What's up out there? Welcome back to Melvor Idle Adventure Mode. This is going to be episode 32. Now, I know if you look at the timestamps from the previous video and the timestamp for this video, it's like right after it. I'm going to do this dungeon run. That is going to be this episode. So, in the last episode, the one we just looked at, I unlocked this ancient crossbow. So, I've got that equipped. And I'm looking at the gear that I have on here, which we've got plenty of ammo. We've got the Infernal Cape. Problem is I got this amulet of looting. This is not needed in dungeons, so I'm going to switch that out to this Fury of the Elemental Zodiacs so that I have the best damage output that I possibly can. In other cases, I would probably run maybe there's a ranged amulet you can get. I might consider running the Amulet of Fury because I kind of like this thing. Or the Amulet of Defense. This gives you a little bit less damage reduction. But if you don't have this thing, there are some decent alternatives. And the amulet isn't necessarily critical, but it is very useful. So I also have the Ring of Barrage equipped. So basically what I'm going to show you is a run of the Water God. So the way you would progress through the game is to take your melee character into the volcanic cave, get all the gear out of there that you can. You're going to need the Infernal Stronghold. This only drops two things, which is the cores and the cape. Eventually you get a pet out of it too, but you get 10 of these cores. You get the melee claws out of it. These things here, the Infernal Claws, with some other stuff, but that's a lot of grind there. So these three here are all melee. You're going to bring your geared up melee character from these two with defense gear and weapon into the Air God dungeon. That gears up your ranged character, which I'll have to do that at some point. I'll show this dungeon off. It's probably at some point. But then you come into the Water God. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the Water God dungeon real quick here. And the reason you run this one here is because this gets a bonus against magic characters. So this is all magical stuff here. You can optionally turn on if you want to burn some prayer points. I don't really need to here. But you could always put on, say, these things have a pretty low chance to hit. So you could put on some protect from range or something like that. If you're earlier in the game and you don't have as much gear, or the levels, you can always turn that stuff on. I don't really need anything here. These would be good, the vision ones, because they bump up your chance to hit. It's not really a whole lot, a little bit there, a little bit more damage. So I'm not going to waste the prayer points because I don't really need it on this. So not going to bother. And we're basically going to run through this and just kill everything. So kind of at this point, it's just watching things. I'll loot these here and there. If I'm iffy on the dungeon, I'll loot them as I go, because if I die, I lose I'll lose an item or whatever, but I'll lose, well, I don't know if you do that anymore. You used to lose this stuff. If you died, it wouldn't gather it for you. So I don't know if that applies anymore. If you hear the birds screaming next door, that's why I record early in the morning, is because they get up and start screaming, and it gets really annoying trying to record while doing this and talk. And the one is a Quaker parrot, and that's the one screaming, and it just gets aggravating. I get tired of hearing it. So that's why I do my recording. Somebody asked why I recorded early like that. That's it. So basically you're going to clear out each floor. There's 5 floors. Let's see, the boss one is at the end. There's 2 pre-boss, and then I think there's 8 of these, and then like 5 of each of the rest. Oh, 6. Gonna correct me on this. Now these are melee. You can actually switch over to your magic and keep your buffs going here. This is going to be a benefit. And in fact, let's toss this on here. Because this magic takes a bonus damage against these things. Now, if you're idling this, you're going to idle it with the one class. These are weaker monsters, so they don't matter as much. But if you're going to run through the dungeon, like if I didn't have adequate levels to take this on, what I would do is switch over to magic to counteract the melee so that I keep my damage reduction multiplier. If I use, let's say I use this. If I use ranged against melee, I take a negative. So I do less damage and, you know what I mean? I take more damage. So it's in your interest, if you're running these manually, to switch according to whichever combat style is going on. Typically, you would find all magic in here, and that's kind of how that works. These guys are not that strong. But a lot of the time that I would be running this dungeon would be, well, I ran this as a melee character, and I just healed my way through. Actually, I ran this with melee and ranged. So I would switch to melee here, and if I switch to melee, I don't get a bonus or a deficit. So we go back to ranged, because ranged gets a damage buff against this. These things are what really kill me, typically, in the dungeon, is usually this third creature. Because these are going to be, they hit hard, they stun. So you'll notice that this goes, if I'm stunned, this goes up quite a bit from 1580 to, let's see here. Let's watch him do that. It was 20 something. If he hits with it, he's got a hit. There we go. So it goes up to 2054. So the damage goes up considerably. Now, he also attacks faster than I do, so he'll get a chance to stun me and then hit me for that higher damage, if he can, if he gets the opportunity to. Well, my attack is, no, I guess it's the same speed. Sometimes your speed will slow down depending on what's attacking you. But these were usually, in all these dungeons, the third creature is the third floor, I guess. The third floor is usually the one that always kills me or harms me. The stuff before it and after it is usually not that bad. But if I've died, it's always like on these golems or whatever. Let's see here. These are still magic. I believe that everything else in here is going to be magic. So if you can endure those previous floors, or the previous floor of melee with whatever range you have and that debuff you're going to take, the rest of this stuff's all cakewalk. I say that, and you may need to manually heal through it, but these are all magical, so you're going to counteract that. Let's see here. Got one more. And then there's 3 monsters left after we kill, well, 5 monsters left, I guess, at this point. I wish there was a way you could counter those freezes somehow, and I think there's either a potion or piece of equipment or something that does. I don't remember which one it is. I'll have to look and see if I can get that yet. Because that would be handy. This gets annoying because this really prevents you from blazing through here. It's kind of a stopping point. Let's see here. His chance to hit's pretty high. I could turn on the, let's see, I could turn this on, protect from, let's see, magic, which would drop it down to 20%, but that burns a lot of prayer points that I don't want to lose. It's not really worth it, but you can turn those on and off as the fight goes. In fact, if you run this dungeon a little on the weak side, you'll be back and forth between healing and changing prayers depending on what you're fighting and stuff like that. It can be active. I kind of wish the battles were a bit more like that. But then you have to be able to idle them, which means you have to be able to just take everything. And you know what I mean? I kind of wish there was a little more active battles, because the active battles are kind of fun. But that's where you're punching above your weight and you're trying to do things that you probably shouldn't be doing and manually healing through everything. So obviously I am way leveled for this, so not having any issues with this at all. These are typically these things don't hit very hard or hurt very much. Let's see, they don't have anything. Yeah, they slow you. They don't stun you. Oh, here is a freeze. So if you get frozen, they will do a significant chunk of damage. And they do hurt. Their attack interval is the same. Actually, it's slow. They're a little faster. And it's all over the place depending on whether I have that barrage thing going or not. Now this is going to switch over to this different thing here. Let's see here. Let's see, they slow you, they freeze you. Yeah, pretty standard stuff. Now this one's melee, so I could switch over to magic again, take all my buffs against him, and just murder. Magic and just murders things. If it works against him, magic is really solid. Let's see, what spells do I have? Ignite's pretty cool. Wonder if Ignite does anything different. Meh. Let's see, what do I have for... So my synergy here is to get 2% damage reduction against melee. So with the tablets, that's going to help out a little bit. Let's switch over to ranged again, because this is back to magic. Once again, let's see. I need to make sure that we are under 4160 hit points. So this is 2184. I think they freeze you. Damage, freeze. Yes. So nothing here is going to exceed my auto eat. This is 2184 unless I get, let's see here. Flash freeze is the one that I need to watch for. That's the one that's going to freeze me. Let's see. And if you watched my Combat 101 video, I talked about how these, I tried to explain how these add up to 100%. Her chance to hit, Glacia's chance to hit is 51%. That's 51% for these things to hit. So she can miss. Some of those missed a little bit, but this is her chance to use. So Frozen Spears come off 30% of the time. Ice Break is 25. Flash Freeze is 20. So if you add all this up, you should get 55, 75, 100. So these percentages add up to 100% because that's the chance to use that particular skill or whatever you want to call this attack. Stun does 2839, so we're more than adequate. I would probably consider switching over to my perfect whales just because I have more of them. I also heal more, so I technically would probably use a little bit less healing. But at this point, I've pretty well destroyed her. I'll loot that. That gives me, let's see here, we get a Scroll of Glacia and we get this water shard. So you upgrade the water shard, you unlock the water chest, you get some blood runes. Now this can give you a ring or an amulet, and those you need to collect a lot of, so I'm going to be idling this for a while. I would open this, get some boots, and I believe I already have the boots, so yeah, it didn't show up here new. So that is a dungeon run. Yeah, I still got my Christmas crap. I haven't sold it. I did on my hardcore because I needed room, but my standard in this account I've kept. Probably can get rid of it. I doubt this stuff will ever open. So at this point, what I would do is save my character and then switch characters and go to something else. I do offline combat, so I would check, whenever I check this, I would make sure I have enough arrows or bolts, and I would make sure I have enough health. On the flip side, if I was coming in with, say, magic, I would make sure I have enough runes. Melee, you're not going to really worry about a whole lot. There's nothing to reload aside from maybe tablets, or if you require prayer points to be where you're at, like if you're not over leveled or over geared or anything, you may need to check prayer points and stuff like that if you're using those. But that is it. That will do it for this episode. That is the first run of, well, I shouldn't say first run, but that is a run of the Water God Dungeon. I'm going to idle this for a while, and then we'll come back and check on it in a little bit. Probably a couple of days or something. That will do it for this episode. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care.